This is the first part of a three-part series where I go through and listen to the entire brand new Imagine Dragons album. This is LOOM.
I could do this with my eyes closed. Turn up the lights. I could do this with my eyes closed.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on the channel. I have a few things that are going to be different in this video, so just give me a second to explain everything up front. First thing that I have to mention is that I have some new equipment set up, some new tech stuff, and hopefully this will lead to us being able to do things easier in the future. But I want to just say, since this is the first video that I'm recording with this setup, I'm really hoping that I have everything set the same and that the quality of this video should be the same as the quality of the videos that I have been releasing. I haven't gotten a new camera or anything like that, but I have gotten a new computer, new monitor, new keyboard, new everything like that, and hopefully this will make things easier in the future to just record more on a whim, and hopefully the advanced power of this computer, which has much more RAM than my laptop that I've been using for years, hopefully this computer allows me to surf the internet and do videos and things while we're listening, and so without hopefully there being a lot of hiccups in the frame rate of the video and the audio sync and all that stuff. So hopefully the quality stays the same, or if not, looks a little bit better from here on. We'll just have to wait and see. So I apologize if it looks worse. I tried to get all the settings the same, but yeah. Another thing that I have to say is that I know a lot of people are not fans of Imagine Dragons, and they are a bit of a polarizing band. And a lot of my subscribers are here because over the last couple of years, I've gone through and done a Metallica reaction to all of their albums with some of my friends. And I do a lot of heavier music on this channel, and I just want to say that give this video a shot. I haven't heard any of this music yet. I have not heard a single second of any of this album. I am a fan of Imagine Dragons, and I'll get more into that in a second, but I just want to say, if you're here because you're subscribed to my channel and you're a fan of heavy music and you are one of those people that scoffs at Imagine Dragons, but you really don't know very many of their songs other than maybe there's some of their big, huge hits that you couldn't get away from, I urge you to just try this video out, listen to some of the music with me, and see what you feel. Try to make your opinion valid by listening along and forming your own opinion as to why you do or don't like it. So that's all I want to say about that, and I'll talk a little bit more about Imagine Dragons in a second. And the last thing I want to say before I get into this video proper is what I mentioned at the beginning. So Imagine Dragons is probably the biggest band I will react to on this channel, maybe other than like Taylor Swift and some other things like that. I fully expect that if I listen to this album from front to back all the way through like I normally do on my channel, that the video will get blocked because of the audio. I try to use the actual audio so that you watching the video can hear what I'm hearing in the video. So what I'm going to try to do with this video is what I did with my Matchbox 20 reaction last year. I'm going to split this album into 3 sections. So we're going to listen to the first 3 songs, then the second 3 songs, and then in the last video, the last 4 songs on the album. I believe it would work out that way because I think there's 10 songs total. So I'm going to try this. We're going to see if it works. Now, if I upload those videos with that structure and it doesn't work and it still gets blocked, I'll smash all 3 of those videos together, upload it as one big video just without the music in it. That's really unfortunate and it's a huge bummer, but that's what I'll have to do if that's the case, because I'm not going to upload 3 short videos without the audio in them. I'll just upload 1, and then everyone can be disappointed that they can't listen to the music in that one video. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully, if you're seeing this, I managed to cut the 3 videos up, or the video up into 3 parts. I'll try to do intros and outros for each part as long as I remember as we're going through, and try to do the video intentionally this way. And if this works and I can post the video with the audio in it, moving forward when we do bigger artists above a certain stature, unless, like Metallica, we know that they allow people to use their music online and then all ad revenue just goes to Metallica. That's how all my videos with Metallica go. That's how all the videos on my channel go. I don't really make anything from any of them because all of them include music, and the ad revenue goes to the artists. So If this works, then this is something we can do moving forward. We'll still film the videos, the reactions, the way we have been as a big, long chunk. And then as long as cutting them into smaller chunks helps, then I will do that. If we have a really important album that people are really excited for and it doesn't work, and I have to cut the album up into individual songs, I might have to start doing that. But for now, we're just going to try cutting up into 3 chunks with a minimum of 3 songs per video, maximum of 4 in this case, and we'll see how that goes. So thank you very much for bearing with me. Now, at the beginning of this first part of the video here, I'm going to talk a little bit about Imagine Dragons, but I'm not going to talk for very long. I have mentioned them here on the channel before. People who are familiar with my channel know that I enjoy them, and Chris make fun of me all the time for that. Cody even laughs at me a little bit when I bring them up. But if you're someone who is unfamiliar with the channel, you're here because you are a fan of Imagine Dragons, then thank you very much for watching. Click around the channel, see some of the other videos that I have, and maybe check out if you want our Discord, which I'll include a link for that in the description of this video. It's mostly Metallica-based stuff and metal-based stuff. However, this year I really want to try to go through and branch out and have some new things that we're focusing on the channel. If you're also new here, I just want to point out, because people might wonder what this is on my arm. In January of this year, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and I have been going through leukemia treatment, cancer treatment, since January. As of the day I'm filming this, tomorrow, we are doing my bone marrow biopsy for the sort of halfway point to see how much cancer is left in my body. And everyone, all my doctors, nurses, everyone is telling me the outlook looks extremely reliable, that there will be no cancer left in me. And then what I will do is I'll have 6 months of what, I forget what they call it exactly, but it's basically like monitoring my blood and all these different things, and trying to make sure that the cancer doesn't come back for another 6 months or so. But everything's been going really great. I have multiple videos on my channel here talking about just my journey with leukemia and cancer treatment and everything. So if that's interesting to you, you can check that out. But that's not something I'm going to focus on in this video at all. I also want to say, I mentioned earlier, if you are here because you like Metallica and everything, like I said, please try to give this a shot. And yeah. So let's talk just very briefly about Imagine Dragons. So I want to just go through the albums of theirs that I have. Okay, so I just had a bit of a technical thing there. I was trying to turn the monitor so that it wouldn't go to sleep after 5 minutes because it kept turning off, which is very annoying. And I accidentally X'd out of Streamlabs. So hopefully, I think it saved everything, but if not, that's fine. I'm going to restart my conversation about Imagine Dragons. So, for me, I was very lucky back, I think in 2013, maybe 2014, right as Imagine Dragons was starting to get popular, they had that song called It's Time. I first learned about them because my friend Graham, his band, who at the time they're called Jagajaw, they were going to be having a special show. And I don't think it was their album release show, but it was a special show for them. I think it was one of the first shows they were going to be doing as their new band. And they were going to be playing the show at a small venue in Omaha called The Waiting Room, which has a capacity of about 200 people or so. And my friend's band, they're just a local band from Omaha, and they were getting excited to start this sort of new project. And so they were going to be playing last. And one of the bands that was going to be playing with them that was traveling through was called Imagine Dragons. And so he looked up this song called It's Time and sent it to me and was like, what do you think of this? This is a band we're going to be playing with. And I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. And I was excited to see them live. So when it came time for the show, I'm the type of person that always goes to shows early and sees every one of the bands. If I'm going to pay my money for the ticket to the show, which I did even though I was going to see my friend, if I'm going to pay money to get a ticket to go to the show, I'm going to go and I want to experience all of the bands. I want to get my money's worth. And so I went to the show, and when Imagine Dragons was playing, they were the second band of the night. There was probably about 50 people or so there. and I thought that they were amazing. For people who've been fans of Imagine Dragons for a while, you will know when they first started off their career, they had this huge, giant bass drum on stage that they would just smash during songs like Radioactive and some of their other songs. And it was really interesting. The singer would just bash this thing into oblivion, and it had this huge sound, and it wasn't really super conducive to, big arenas and stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons they stopped doing that. I have never seen them live other than this one time, so I guess I can't say what they do or don't do live. But anyway, I saw Imagine Dragons, and this was right as they were putting out their Continued Silence EP. So for those of you who don't know, before they released Night Visions, which is their sort of debut full-length album, they released this EP, the Continued Silence EP. And on Night Visions, there's at least 4, if not 5 or 6 songs that I guarantee every person watching this video would know. Many of those songs are on this EP. So that's Radioactive. This EP has 6 songs on it. Radioactive, Demons, On Top of the World, Round and Round, It's Time, and My Fault. And of those songs, Radioactive, Demons, It's Time, and then also sort of On Top of the World, were pretty big songs. At the time this was released, It's Time was like their big song. It was before Radioactive and Demons had been starting to play on the radio at all. So this is very early on in their career, and I got to see them at an incredibly small venue. There was like 50 people there, and it was very exciting, and I really liked them. And because of that, I went and I purchased all of the CDs that they had available at the time. So I bought their Continued Silence EP, and then I also bought these 2 EPs as well. So this is Hell and Silence. And this is It's Time. And so if you combine some of these things, like the It's Time has Amsterdam on it, which is a song that was also, I believe, on Night Visions. So there's a couple songs on here that weren't on anything after this. I think some of the songs on these were maybe used as bonus songs on extended versions and things like that of Night Visions, and maybe even later on. But it's really cool. I feel very fortunate that I got these. You can find these on the internet. They're not like super expensive or anything, but the fact that I bought these from the band at the time, I remember very distinctly the singer, which I'm sorry I can't remember the names of the guys in the band, but the singer specifically was very excited to do the show because he said that he was born in Iowa and grew up in a small town a few minutes around Omaha, which I was born in a very small town about 45 minutes or so, or 45 miles or so from Omaha. And so it was very fun to hear someone say that. And he was talking about how he was very familiar with Omaha and Nebraska and the Huskers and just like farming communities and rural life and things like that. And I believe when he was pretty young, he moved to California, I believe. And then he considers himself from there. So I'm not even sure if you go look up his life story or anything, if he has that mentioned. And for all I know, he totally lied and just said that in every place he went to, but it sounded very authentic to me and I believed him. And so in many other videos on my channel here, I'll reference and say like the guy from Imagine Dragons, the singer is actually from Nebraska/Iowa. And so that's one specific thing I remember about that show. And I wish at the time I wasn't the type of person I didn't go to very many shows at all, but I wasn't the type of person that would take videos or pictures at a show. But I really wish I had taken some video of Imagine Dragons performing at this show, or a picture or something, if nothing else, because I just don't have anything from that show, and it would be so amazing to find a picture from that show and to have some proof, I guess, that I was there other than these CDs. So that was a really fun experience. And so anyway, I don't need to dwell on that very long. I just wanted to bring that up and say that was my exposure to Imagine Dragons for the first time, and I think it's a pretty special thing that I got to experience. So then, as we all know, Night Visions came out and just exploded, and they became all of a sudden one of the biggest, most played bands on the planet. And then from there, I was very, very excited to check out their next album, which was Smoke and Mirrors. And I remember that Night Visions came out, and then like a couple months later, they released this like giant bonus version of it that had like 10 bonus songs or some ridiculous thing. And I remember at the time thinking, well, this is kind of a bummer because I bought a deluxe edition of this album when it first came out, and it has 2 bonus tracks on it. And then later they re-released the album, like a Target exclusive version or something, and it had like 6 bonus tracks or something. And I remember feeling kind of bummed about that. And so when Smoke and Mirrors came out, and that would have been in 2015, I didn't purchase the album right away. I waited, and I waited and waited and waited, and I ended up getting this version, which has 4 bonus tracks on it. So this is, so as you can see, the white version, or the gold version, I guess it might be considered, or whatever. This is the special deluxe edition, or special edition, I don't know what they call it, but I've always been kind of bummed that Imagine Dragons does that. They usually release like a second version of their album, and I hate that because... Oh, that wobbles the camera. I need to make sure I remember that. Anyway, so I heard this album, and to this day, I don't know if I've heard a band take a bigger risk with a sophomore album than this album. I think that they had a formula that was working really well for them with Night Visions, and you can see the success that they had. To then take that and release this album, which I will not say is my favorite album of all time. I don't think it's the greatest sounding album of all time. It's the noise, the sound, the sounds, the crazy samples, the crowds, the vocal samples that they have spread out throughout this album that makes it feel like it's almost trip hop in a way. Some of the way they approach the beds of the song, right? So if you think of this of their songs as like there's drums, and at this point in their career, drums, bass, guitar, then you have synths and everything. But if you take all of those things away, this album has this like weird bed of noise, crowd noise, room tone. There's like something constantly underneath everything. And the other thing that shocked me about this album, other than that, is how dynamic this album is. This was 2015, so we were kind of, I believe, over the hump of the compression wars, but this was the biggest band in the world at the time. I would argue that this is possibly one of the most anticipated albums of the last 20 years. And to have this album come out and be so dynamic, and what I mean by that is dynamic in volume, dynamic in compression. There are quiet moments to the songs on this album that then get loud. And you don't hear that a lot on a lot of pop music recently, and especially not with Imagine Dragons' last few albums at all. And so that was something that just shocked me at the time. And at the time, I was working in Omaha at a recording studio. And one of the things that the recording studio I worked at specialized in for a time before I got there was mastering. And so the guy that I worked with was at one time a mastering engineer. Mostly he did vinyl stuff back in the 70s and into the 80s. And then he had a sort of an apprentice working with him that then went on to do tons of mastering and is now Focus Mastering, a very famous mastering house in Omaha, Nebraska, does international, very well-known mastering engineer by the name of Doug Van Sloan. And I was really into mastering at the time and the idea of dynamics and everything like that. And the guy I worked with was an older guy who was very old school in his mentality of dynamics of music. And this album was really shocking to me because it was doing several things that pop music at the time was not doing. And when I think about the idea of the sampling and the noises and things in the backgrounds of these songs, I think that was very influential for music moving forward because there were a lot of things that came out after this that were clearly inspired by it. And I think Imagine Dragons have been very influential on pop music over the last decade for sure, in many ways. But one of the things that's special about this album is that sort of like noise bed underneath everything. And other artists and other engineers have really taken that and used it to really, really cool effect. And I bring up trip hop because that's sort of a fundamental aspect of trip hop as well. It's like having the room tone in there, the sound effects, the record scratching, not wiki record scratching, but like the record pops. It sounds like you're listening to a vinyl record intentionally. Things like that that make it sort of give the song a character that's even outside of the music and what they're playing and the notation and everything. And so I really think that this album is a special album. And there are a lot of songs on here that I really like a lot. I absolutely love, what's the... I'm So Sorry is great. It's a heavy song, which the idea of Imagine Dragons even using discernible guitars in their music is something they have not done now for several albums. So to have this is still them as a band, kind of. Hopeless Opus, one of my favorite Imagine Dragons songs. There's a lot of really great songs on here. And at the time, there were a lot that were played on the radio, but I think that they've kind of fallen by the wayside. Unless you're a huge Imagine Dragons fan, I think the average sort of radio listener would not remember a lot of the songs off of this album. Maybe if they heard them, but if you think Imagine Dragons, you definitely think of their songs off their first album a lot more. So then, at that point, I kind of just stopped listening to Imagine Dragons, and the reason for that is when they released their next album, which wasn't Evolve. I think Evolve was later. No, it was Evolve. When they released their next album, Evolve, I did not trust them that they were not going to release a deluxe edition later on. And so when the album came out, I did not listen to it. I waited. And so I waited and waited and waited, and then eventually they released their next album. And I missed the album before that, so then I stopped listening and didn't get that one. And so it wasn't until they released Mercury Act 1 that I saw this at Walmart, and I bought it for, I think it was on sale for like $8.99 or something when it first came out. No, Target, that's what it was. I bought it at Target. It was on clearance on Black Friday one year. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give this a shot. It's been a while. Obviously, I was familiar with their songs that everybody knows. That Wreck-It Ralph song, which, 'Cause You're a Natural, right? And then their hugest song to date, I think,
Thunder,
right? Everyone knows that. And there are other big songs that were, popular. And I believe at the time they were releasing this was when they were starting to get popular with, they had that song on the League of Legends thing, I think it was. And then they ended up releasing the theme song for the Netflix show Arcane, which I like those two songs, though as far as I know, those weren't really put on an album. At least I don't think so. And so I picked this up. And I listened to it, and I was very disappointed. I do want to say as well, I do remember reading reviews of, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but I think that there was one album in between Evolve and Mercury Part 1, and that album got bad reviews. I think that was the one that was mostly associated with Wreck-It Ralph, and I remember reading a really bad review of that album and then kind of dismissing it. And so when this album came out, it wasn't something that was on my radar at all, but I got it because it was on sale, and I think they were doing a special at Target on Black Friday one year where it was like, buy any 3 CDs, buy three CDs, get one for $1 or something like that, and all the sale prices still counted. So I think I bought 3 CDs or something at the time that were on sale from like $16.99 for $8.99, and then I got one CD for $1 or something. And so I got this, and I remember listening to it and being so disappointed, thinking, wow, all their creativity is completely gone. All the cool sounds, the interesting audio techniques and things they were using, the fun way they were approaching crafting music, the ingenuity, all that stuff, totally gone. This album is just generic rap drum beats, basically hip-hop drum beats with very generic sounding electronic drums, and the singer sort of rap singing over them. Very generic. There's not a single song on this album that I remember at all. Maybe Dull Knives as I look at this. But I don't recall any songs on here being worth my time at all. And I was so disappointed. And then A year later, I was in Minnesota at the greatest CD store I've ever been to in downtown Minnesota. I wish I could remember what it was called. And I want to make a whole trip to Minnesota just to go to this place again. But I bought like $150 worth of CDs there. I bought like 30 some CDs. And I made more than that. It was a big sack full. But anyway, I found this, and it was Mercury Part 1 and Part 2 with Part 1 with 14 songs. So there's 2 songs on there that are more than on this one. And oh, actually, Enemy is on here. I think that is the song with that they did with. Okay, interesting. I guess I didn't listen to that disc 1 very much on here because I listened to it on here, but I think that's the song that was the Arcane song. But anyway, then Act 2 is on here as well, which has 18 songs on it. So I was like, that's worth the $7.95. And so I bought this, and I remember listening to the second disc thinking, okay, I like this better, but it's basically the same thing as the first disc. I think they tried a little bit harder, but it was like minimum effort put into all of this. And I was very disappointed. And so I was like, Then a couple of months ago, I bought this at a used store somewhere, I think Goodwill or something, for 59 cents. Was very excited because I know I don't have this one. And I listened to it, and I thought it was okay, but not as good as their first 2 albums. And this one is the one that has Believer on it, which I think is their best song on here. And then Thunder, of course, which is a song that my nephew loved when he was really young, when he was born. This is 2017, and he was born in 2013, I believe. So he would have been like 4 or 5, when this song came out, and it was a big deal for him. And so I've heard a couple of them from here. I have listened to this whole album. It did not impress me enough to really make me think or remember anything from it. So that brings you up to speed with basically everything I know about Imagine Dragons. I have defended Imagine Dragons on my channel multiple times to the elite metal guys that I listen to Metallica with and other heavy bands. And one of them is a guy that both of the guys that I listen to music with here, both named Chris, and then also my cousin Cody, who I do other videos with as well. I've defended Imagine Dragons because I do think that their music is good, and I think that it's a lot harder for a band to write a full album worth of #1 hit songs. It's the thing that impresses me so much about One Direction and Ryan Tedder specifically. Every song that One Republic has released could be a single on the radio. And I think that there is something very, very difficult about doing that. And when Imagine Dragons started on Night Visions, and I believe Smoke and Mirrors as well, it was pretty much just the guys in the band and then the guy that they had that helped them record their stuff earlier on and everything. It's the same guy. He's been working with them. He worked on Loom as well. I think it's 2 guys actually that worked with them on Loom, and it's the same guys that they've been working with the whole time. However, with like Mercury Act 1 and 2, like every song is written by like the dude who sings, these other guys, and then like a plethora of other people. And to me, that shouts like Taylor Swift or Selena Gomez or something. And I don't want to, poo-poo on Taylor Swift because I really enjoy a lot of her music as well. But at a certain point, pop music becomes manufactured. And it becomes manufactured to the point where it's hard to defend the fact that there is some integrity from the individuals in the band anymore left. At that point, it's just a collection of songs that other people have written and then were curated and chosen specifically for that band to release with the hopes that every song become as popular as humanly possible. Now, I don't know Imagine Dragons very well. I do know that one of the reasons people dislike them so much is because they have moral values that are actually based in something other than just trying to be good. And as a Christian person myself, as a Catholic, I can relate to that, and I appreciate the fact that I do not ever expect to hear swearing in their music or anything like that. So that's one area, I suppose, where I can appreciate them maybe a little bit more than someone who, worships Satan and listens to the band Death and stuff. That's a joke. And so I do think that in some ways, it's hard for me to take Imagine Dragons seriously based on their last couple of albums because I don't feel like they were trying very hard and the creativity that they had on their first couple of albums was gone. So I'm really hoping we get to see with Loom a return to form. They were releasing so much music over such a short period of time that maybe that kind of contributed to the lack of creativity from song to song. And so I'm hoping the fact that they took some time off, and because I believe Mercury Part 2 came out when? 2022? Oh, 2021 it says. So in that case, then we've had 3 years now, and COVID, of course, was in there. And so hopefully they took the time to be creative and to find themselves a little bit more and to be a little bit true to what they started out as, and that these songs feel inspired. That's what I'm really hoping. And so, yeah, I just want to say one more time, if you're the type of person, if you've made it all the way through to the first 30 minutes of this video, and you're now going to click away, that would be absurd, because why would you waste your time listening to me talk about this if you don't care about Imagine Dragons? But if for some reason you did, you had this on while you were cleaning your house, you saw a video pop up in your subscription feeds and it was mine, thank you very much for clicking on the video in the first place. I highly implore everybody to just try this and see what you think. And we say on our channel here all the time, you have to be able to formulate your opinion. You have to be able to objectively you can have your subjective opinions and you can have your objective opinions. And you really need to try to extrapolate your feelings and try to come up with the answer to the question, why? If you listen to it and you hate it, that's fine. Try to understand why, and then tell me in the comments why, right? If you listen to it and you can't come up with any good reason to hate it other than the fact that you've heard a lot of other people say that they hate Imagine Dragons, I don't think that that's a good enough reason. So I just want to implore everybody, say, hey, give this a shot with me. Let's listen to it. Let's give it a shot. Let's try. So, without further ado, I have my drink here. I'm not going to do the snap. For this video, I've got a Prime. I'm going to be trying this for the first time. Shout out to Logan Paul and his great work in WWE. I'm going to be trying for the first time the Prime Lemonade flavor. I've tried 2 Primes so far, actually 3. I've tried the Blue Raspberry, which I loved, the Red, White, and Blue, which I hated, and then I tried the new X flavor that came out recently around WrestleMania, or one of the pay-per-views. Maybe it was WrestleMania. I think Logan released it for his Donald Trump interview or something ridiculous like that. But I tried that one, and that one to me tasted like lemonade. So I'm really curious if this tastes like that one. It basically tastes like sun-kissed lemonade without any carbonation. But it does taste still like a Prime. My nephew often says, Hunter, for those of you who know who I've done videos with on the channel before, he tells me always that Prime drinks all have the same flavor with just a little bit different, right? And I think I'm starting to understand what he means. So we've got this. I've got the songs pulled up. In this video, we are going to listen to the first 3 songs. We're going to listen to Wake Up, Nice to Meet You, and Eyes Closed. Then in the second part, we're going to listen to Take Me to the Beach, In Your Corner, and Gods Don't Pray. And then in the last video, we're going to listen to Don't Forget Me, Kid, Fire in These Hills, and Eyes Closed. So, with that being said, center yourself, and let's listen to some brand new Imagine Dragons, unironically, because I have hope, I have faith that they put effort into this and that we're going to like it. I think that we will. This is Imagine Dragons with Wake Up in 3, 2, 1.
Wheels up when I'm off the ground. I'm nowhere, but I'm all around. I'm spinning and watch me now. I'm spinning.
Love the low vocal. Love the drum sounds right away. They're way more interesting than on Mercury.
Turn around, turn it up, talk a bit, zip it up, lock you in,
That could be a guitar on the right side.
Yeah. Everybody's coming for you, wake up. Everybody's coming, wake up.
Ooh, that's cool.
Everybody's dropping everywhere, I'm waist up. Everybody's
I like the drums. I like the bass.
Some days I'm a chameleon. Switch it up when I crawl the ceiling. Flip it upside down and
Ooh, that cool. That synth bass is neat in there.
every single one of you is coming to my mind.
His voice is just so smooth.
I'm in the line.
He's so precise with his diction with every word.
Turn around, turn it up.
Love the lower register vocals.
Flip it up, lock you in, and close it up. Oh, everybody's coming for you, wake up. Everybody's coming, wake up. Everybody's dropping everywhere, I'm waist up.
Trying to debate if I think the bass is real bass guitar. I can't decide. Cool.
Got a case of the take a leave.
Okay, bridge.
Give an inch and I'm bound to seize
Thank you
it.
for having a
Take
bridge.
chainsaw out and feed it.
The song's very short, but I wouldn't expect the songs to be very long.
When you don't believe it, write me off and I'd love to read it. Spit your words and I'll watch you eat it.
Not a single song over 4 minutes. No song over, only one song over 3:30. Oh, one song over, one close to 4, In Your Corner. I like this song, has a very bouncy vibe to it. Right? Turn it up a smidge more. Okay, cool. So already I feel like there's more elements to this song than on anything on Mercury. And I might be misremembering Mercury that much, but if it was so bad it didn't leave any impression on me, you know, that's what it is. Okay, this is track 3. Nice to meet you. Starting right now. Pitch shifted vocal sample. Sounds like it could be a female vocal sample. Some little like flippy cloppy thing, very cool. A string sound being manipulated with some sort of oscillator type thing. Oh, cool. 4 to the floor beat. Ooh, that's a real bass. I think. And I want to make it clear, I'm not degrading something when I say that it doesn't sound real. I have no problem with synthetic everything in a song. But I feel like one of the things that makes their earlier albums special is a bit of that human touch to it. So it's fun to hear that here.
Anyway, it's nice to meet you. Anyway, it's nice to meet you. Anyway,
Very cool.
it's nice to meet you.
Crisp, clear vocals.
Anyway, it's nice to meet you. I was buying you those flowers. I was listening for hours. I was shutting up those doubters. Hey, yeah. She was jealous of our relationship. She hated that we were making it. She's smiling, but she faking it. Yeah, yeah. Praying that we make it through the weekend. Winners in December, we are sinking. Hammer and a nail and now we're leaking. Hey, yeah, yeah.
The mix is very round, pretty contained in the middle. That sort of string thing is kind of going back and forth on the sides. That's really that extreme thing happening on the sides. Okay, now we have some claps far, spread wide.
Nice to meet you.
Very chill song.
Nice to meet you. I hope to see you. Anyway, nice to meet you.
You know, one of the things that made Night Vision so special was the fact that the drums sounded basically completely different on every single song. And that was such a cool thing at the time. That was so neat and really made those songs all stand out.
Should have seen her.
It's nice that I can have like multiple windows open and stuff. I can still see myself. I can see Winamp. like the gang vocals, crowd vocals in the back. Female backing vocals as well. Very nice. All right, now we're going to go right. Actually, let's pause it for just a second. Give it a time to breathe here for a second. Yes, okay, so both of those songs, very interesting, very different from one another, which is what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear differences between the songs. That's not what I got with Mercury at all. Mercury was 18 songs on one disc, 14 songs on the other disc, with maybe the exception of being that Enemy song and maybe one or two other songs that were clearly like made at a different time by different people with different contributors and stuff. Every one of the other songs basically sounded the exact same, and tonally, everything. And so that was very disappointing to me. And so far, we've already gotten more variety than what I remember, at least. So that's very exciting. I would like a little bit more of bite to some of this. You know, both these songs are very round, very summer feeling. And I think that that's nice. It's their artwork for this album is really interesting and nice. Their artwork for all their albums is interesting. Although, I mean, these are both, the Mercury ones are just pretty terrible. But I like the artwork for this. It does, the sun, coming up or some kind of a thing with like a, it does feel, it feels very warm, I guess. And that's what the mix feels, very warm as well. So let's go ahead and listen to this third track. This is Eyes Closed, and we'll see what we think. This is Eyes Closed in 3, 2, 1.
I could do this with my eyes closed.
A lot more pitch-shifted vocals. That's probably going to be in every song, especially after Thunder became such a huge song for them. It's an expected part. Plus, it's just a modern pop thing.
From the back of my head, been gone and facing horrors that should never be said. The wrath and the grit from the pit of despair, been taking every whip and word, I've never been spared. They said tomorrow's never promised, honest. They said angels are among us.
Love the fact that the drums haven't come in yet.
Me up in the maze. Turn out the lights. I was born, I was raised for this.
I'm a little bummed that there's not more high frequencies in the mix. It definitely feels like everything is high passed pretty extremely. Interesting. Cool. A little dubsteppy oscillating synth there. Very cool. A little bit more of an attitude to this one. Very cool.
Mantras, meditation, throw it all away. All the places I've been, all the blood that I've bled, I've been broken down and beat up, but I still get ahead. All the faceless embraces and the tasteless two faces, killed and resurrected, cause I'll never be dead. They said tomorrow's never promised, honest. Yeah, they said piranhas are among us. Lock me up in the maze.
So this one, huge bass notes that are gigantic, reverbed, just massive low frequencies. And so really, it's not even really a bass part so much as it is just background wall of bass noise. And then you have that cool synth bass, oscillating synth bass thing. The low frequencies are coming from that low pushing and then the kick drum.
And when the day broke, buried in violence,
Ooh, piano.
something made my mind up. I will spend these days
Acoustic guitar. Let's go.
alone and far away. Lock me up in the maze. Turn out the lights. I was born, I was raised for this. Turn out the lights. Lock me up.
The hi-hats and the cymbals and any percussion stuff is not, aux percussion stuff is not very prominent in the mix. Good, I'm glad they repeated this part a third time. I don't have my quick keys set up here to pause the music of myself. I gotta pause it by hand. Cool. Little moment to breathe afterwards. Okay, so there we have the first 3 songs. So that third song, track 3, do this, or was it eyes with my eyes closed? Do this with my eyes closed? Just eyes closed, of course. Make it simple. That was my favorite song of the 3 that I've heard. I really enjoyed that. I do like the variety between them. Like the first song was kind of a chill song with a bit more of like a hip hop feel to it. The second song was kind of a 4 to the floor, also very chill, but had quite a different feel to it. More summery, more laid back in the breeze type of thing. And then the third song had more of a bite to it. It didn't have a bite with the mix, but the song had more attitude to it. There was that synth bass oscillating, like synth bass what's the word? Dubstep sort of sounding oscillating bass. It was, you waited for the song, the chorus to kick in, and then the drums came in, right? That's how Radioactive worked. It's how Demons worked. It's how a lot of those earlier songs from them worked. And I think that that's a nice formula for them, and they haven't really necessarily done that as much. They do, and they have been, but they did that so much on their first album, and then a little bit on their second album, and they kind of went away from that. So the drums, not really too much. The first track a little bit. The drums felt like they might be a little bit more sort of realistic drum sounds. I'm sure everything we were hearing was a synthetic drum, which I have no problem with whatsoever. Probably everything they've ever done on every song is synthetic and not necessarily someone played on the drums. But I think that I like it when bands like this occasionally will throw in a snare drum that sounds like a snare drum rather than only using synthetic sounding drums, like electronic drums, electronic sounding drum samples. But that's what they've been doing more recently. That's what every drum is on Mercury. And so I think, the fact that there's a little bit more elements, more layers happening here, it's a little bit less, minimalistic. There's more things happening here, more layers. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to hopefully end first part 1 here. And then we'll go right into the next part, which I'll release all 3 of these parts on the same day. So if you see this video, you should absolutely have a link in the description to parts 2 and 3. And if all goes to plan, the next video will be probably the shorter of the 3 videos, where I just listen to this middle 3 songs, talk about them a little bit. Doesn't need to be more than that. And then the third video will be the final 4 songs, and then my sort of overall thoughts of the album. So if you want to skip all that stuff and go to the third video at the very end, I'll have timestamps in each of these videos, and you can just kind of see my overall thoughts in the album, hear my overall thoughts in the album at the end of the third video. So thank you very much for watching this, and I will see you in video part 2. Thank you.